Hello and welcome. I hope you're doing well. My name is Tasmin and I'm an author and a freelance storyteller and creative. And on this channel, I talk about my life on the Azores archipelago. I'm originally from Germany, but I moved here a while ago. I have a series where I tell you all about my story. I'm gonna leave it linked up above and down below so you can go and check that out. And I'm also talking about books and sustainability on this channel. But today is all about why I love the Azores so much. If you've seen any of the My Story videos, you probably have an idea what it's gonna be like in this video, but I just wanted to dedicate a full video for my love for these islands. As a little disclaimer, of course, like when I talk about Azores, that's very general, but all 9 islands are very unique. So some of the things that I might mention are not really the same on the other islands or might be a little bit different. I live on Pico Island to be specific, but I've seen and visited all islands except for Graciosa. I'm missing only one. I hope one day I can finally go there. Yeah, I've spent more or less time on some of them, like on Corvo, I only spent a day. On São Miguel, oh God, in total, if you combine all the times I went there, I've probably been there like 2-3 months by now. It was a lot of time, so it really varies. And of course also my experience, like knowing locals and everything and knowing the traditions and cultures varies. I know a lot because I was a tour guide for a while, so I studied a lot of what Azores really are about, so that also plays into it. But at the end of the day, I'm not a local, I'm a foreigner that moved here and I just wanted to express that, and I wanted to express my gratitude that I'm allowed to live here, because I know I'm very much a guest of some sort, or an immigrant, or however you want to call it. But at the end of the day, I'm not from here. But this is just a video of why I love it. I just wanted to disclose that all 9 islands are very much unique, especially when it comes to culture. So what I say is mostly based on Pico, but also a little bit generalized. The first point I would like to talk about is probably the most obvious one, and that is the nature. The nature of the Azores archipelago is just incredible. It's amazing. And I love it so much. Like the wildness here, I'm very much aware that a lot of it is not like as wild as it looks like, because most of all the islands, like every millimeter almost, was farmed at some point, and we have a lot of invasive plants, and there is unfortunately some use of pesticides and stuff like that. But still, like compared to where I come from, I'm a city girl from Munich, like we do have some greenery, we do have forests, but this wildness of nature just overgrowing everything is something that I didn't really know. Like maybe also because Germany is so neat and tidy, you know, and then you come here and everything is just wild and everything is just like overgrown. Like even in our own garden, you don't go into our garden for a week and everything is like overgrown and you have plants everywhere. And yeah, and the greenery. To be honest, I feel like every island on the Azores has their own tone of green. At least that's my experience. I don't know if anyone agrees with me, but I feel like the color green on all 9 islands is different from one another. And I'm looking out of the window right now and I just see trees. I know there's like a main street and there are houses here, so you might even hear the cars in the background, but like if I don't see the street when I look out of the window, but I see like these trees that I know have just grown wild because they have been abandoned vineyards. And beyond that, there's the blue ocean, which is of course the next thing. Next to the greenery, you have the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and especially from the south coast of Pico, if you look out, there is no land until the South Pole. And we are very, very much in the Northern Hemisphere here. So that's incredible to me. Like the wildness of the ocean, the wildness of the plants. I talked about in, I think, my first Growing Roots episode, that I listened to a podcast where they talked about the Planthropocene, and I would love to be a part of that. I would love to experience a Planthropocene. And if I think of the word Planthropocene, Pico Island specifically, but Azores in general, is what I think about, like when it comes to the amount of plants versus the amount of people. Besides all the plants, you also have animals. We actually don't have a lot of endemic land animals, but the biodiversity in the ocean, of course, is incredible. So you have whales and dolphins and octopus and manta rays and everything you can imagine. And it's so amazing to be so close to this wilderness that is in so many parts still so strange to us, so alien to us, which is, it's just amazing. It's like touching a mystery, you know, every day. And here on the islands, on the land, there are two animals that are super important to me. One is the kagahu, which is Cory Shearwater, I think in English, and they have a very special song. They sound super weird when they sing, and they're only here in the summer. So when you first hear the first Cory Shearwater at night, you know summer is coming. And when it's the first night that you don't hear them, you know it's winter because they have left. And that is why I love them so much. And because I mentioned this in my story video, I went camping once with friends of mine on San Miguel Island, and I was woken up at 5 a.m. by like hundreds and hundreds of these birds flying above my head in the absolute darkness. It was pitch black. I didn't see anything, but I heard them flying over my head towards the sea because they spent every waking hour out at the sea. They're incredible birds when it comes to like flying and navigating the waves and everything. And they only come back when the sun is gone. They're incredibly shy and they're super special to me. And the other ones are the endemic bats that only exist here. I will put the Latin name on the screen because I don't know the English term for them. I don't know if there is an English term for them. And they fly, very much in contrast to the birds that I just mentioned, they fly also during the day. So you can see them flying around all the time. And they have been with me in the first apartment that I lived in 2018. They have been living in the walls. So I don't know, they just mean a lot to me, and they're endangered. So that's another point. The second point is very much connected to the first, and that is that everything grows here. I'm a big fan of fruits like avocados, bananas, pineapple, all that kind of stuff. And that doesn't exist in Germany. Like, you can buy it, but you cannot grow it. Like, every time you buy it, it's not local and it's unsustainable. And here you have the things fresh from out of your door, without pesticides, without nothing. It's amazing. Like, I love the fact that I have fresh fruit and stuff here and vegetables from my own garden or from friends' houses, and that whatever you put into the earth just grows. The next point are the people, or specifically their generosity. Of course, when you talk about the people, that is very generalized, and again, all 9 islands are very different, especially when it comes to the people. But here on Pico, the people are so generous. I talk about this again and again in my vlogs and in my story videos, but it's just something that blows my mind every day, how loving and generous the people here can be. Of course, not everyone is like this, and of course, people here are not perfect by any means, but the aspect of the generosity and the kindness and the willingness to share and help is something I've never experienced anywhere else, especially not in Germany, because our culture is very distant and cold, and we are not very warm and welcoming. We're not very generous, like, at all. And coming here and constantly having food in front of our door, constantly having people just chit chat with you on the street, being invited for dinner like almost like multiple times per month, you know, like it's amazing. Specifically, the locals are so giving. in so many ways. And there are also people that came from outside that moved here, but those are the people that mingle with the locals a lot and that enjoy the very simple lifestyle, that don't try to make something else here, that don't try to change anything about the islands or their people. And those are the people that are also often like this. And that is one of the biggest changes in myself that I have seen, that I am becoming more and more generous. I sometimes have really these cultural fights within my mind, but I know how much I appreciate the generosity and how much that makes for a more peaceful, loving world. And that is why I always try to let that side of me win and like push the German a little bit out of me. Next up are the traditions, and that is something that I am very fascinated with, because I mean, I studied cultural anthropology, I love culture, I love traditions, I just find it fascinating, like from all kinds of views and perspectives, and here the traditions are very much about coming together again. Like the generosity is this big part of it all. Like you have, for example, matanzas in the wintertime. Matanzas are festivities where a family, here families, especially in the old days, had a lot of kids and a lot of family members. So a family is big and a family would come together and they would kill a pig. Usually it's one, and usually it's the pig that they have raised themselves over time, and they kill the pig and they turn it into all sorts of food over the course of a weekend usually. And then that is the big part of the matanza, is also that they invite everyone that they like. To be invited is an incredible honor. It's not that easy to be invited. Of course, people here are very welcoming, also to strangers and sometimes even to tourists. So maybe if you're here just on a trip in wintertime, maybe you're lucky and you end up at a matanza, but usually it's very much focused on the locals and you don't get in that easily. But still, it's a lot of people that come together and have a feast, and not just one. As I said, a matanza goes over the course of at least 2 days, sometimes even 3, and you come for lunch and you come for dinner. Usually when you're invited, you only come for one of the feasts. Sometimes they tell you, oh yeah, come back tomorrow for lunch, and then you might come again. But other than that, yeah, people just gather and you have like these feasts like day and night kind of. And everybody is helping together in creating all these meals, and it's really something. Like, I've never seen something like this, and it just makes me so happy. I love them so much because the atmosphere is just so, I don't know how to describe it. Like, all my life I've been looking for community, and even though on the matanzas everyone is a stranger for me, and I usually can't really even talk to people because my Portuguese is very poor, I still feel like I belong, and I still feel like this is community, you know, like people coming together and having a good time and sharing food. That, I don't know. I don't know. I cannot explain to you why I love matanzas so much, but I really, really love them. Unfortunately, the tradition of matanzas is slowly dying, because it is a lot of work, obviously, for the family that is hosting. And it only works if you are a farmer of some sort, where you raise the pig or whatever, and you're willing to go through that whole process and host so many people and whatnot. And of course, you need a big family to pull this off. And since the young people are leaving the islands because there are little opportunities here, unfortunately, this tradition is slowly dying, and on some islands it already barely exists anymore. Here on Pico, it is luckily still very present, but the question is for how long. A tradition that is definitely not dying out is the Espirito Santo festivities. Those are a religious thing. It is celebrated in May, and it celebrates the Holy Ghost, which is Espirito Santo, you know, in Portuguese. And it is nothing that is very common anywhere else. It's a Christian thing, but I've never heard of it really, and especially the way it is celebrated here is pretty unique. And in the very beginning, it was even looked down upon by the church, by the Vatican, but nowadays it's very much accepted. And Espirito Santo is something that is celebrated by each tiny village on a different day, in a tiny bit of a different way, but you have some key elements, which are the symbols, and you have usually a procession where like the holy statue of the church is carried around the town. You often have flowers on the street, and you have the so-called Sopa de Espírito Santo, which is a food gathering, again, where you have this one specific type of soup that has a very distinct taste. I can only eat it once a year, to be honest. It has a very, very distinct taste. And it was originally invented to feed the poor. Like when it was first created here and became a part of the local life, it was really to feed the people who had difficulties feeding themselves. And that is why they created this festival of the Holy Ghost. And you will find it here in springtime everywhere on all islands. As I said, every tiny community or town celebrates it on a different day, in a tiny bit of a different way. So when you're here in springtime, you are for certain gonna meet it somewhere, somehow. And the last tradition that I would like to mention is the chamarrita, which is a traditional type of dance, which you cannot do alone, you have to do it in a group. As I said, a lot of the traditions here are very much focused on community and coming together. And chamarrita is no different. It is a dance that I cannot really describe, but you have one person who gives the commands, and you have like a series of movements that you have to do with the others. And yeah, I will insert pictures, you will see what I mean. As you have maybe gathered from the things that I've mentioned so far, one big thing here is the simplicity of life. And that is also one of the things that I love here so much. So many things are so easy and simple here that feel like so loaded with anxiety anywhere else in the world. Like when I think about making a feast for a lot of people in Germany, I already feel stressed just by the thought of it, of the thought of preparing everything and like making everyone happy and things like that, and being a good host. But here, things come easy, things are relaxed, everybody's relaxed, nobody is making like big drama. Well, some people make drama, but in general, drama is something that you will encounter not so often here, or at least I have not encountered here as much. Of course it exists, but it often exists behind closed doors. So that's why I say I have not experienced much drama. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But when it comes to really coming together and things like that, everything is very simple. And for example, that is something I will talk in another video about, but here in the supermarket, you don't have a lot of choices, which in the beginning was a shock for me, coming from Germany, where we have those massive supermarkets where you have like 25 different brands for one specific cheese. You know, like here you don't have that. You have to be lucky if you find the food that you're looking for in the first place, and then you don't have a lot of things to choose from, except when it comes to wine and chips, out of some bizarre reason. But I don't know why that is. But in general, you don't have a lot of things to choose from. And nowadays, when I come back to Germany, I'm just so overwhelmed whenever I need to buy anything, because I'm so used to the simple life here, and it is really good for your mental health. Another part of the simple life here is also that you don't need to impress anyone. And on this, again, this might just be my perspective because I was not born here, but as somebody that comes from the outside, and as someone who comes from Munich, which is a city where especially your look is incredibly important, the way you look, the way you dress, the way you do your makeup and stuff like this, you come here and people just don't care. Like you can run around in your ripped jeans or in your sweatpants and whatnot, and people will not look down on you. Also, for example, if you work in a job that in a lot of other parts of the world people would look down on, like for example in a fast food restaurant. We don't have many fast food restaurants, but as an example, we have a few. If you work in a fast food restaurant, or if you're a cleaning lady, things like this, jobs that in Germany people would look down upon, like, oh, you're one of those people, you know, like you are instantly judged. And here, at least from my experience, from what I've seen so far, people don't judge these things. They're just happy for you because you have managed to score a job that also pays you in the winter. Because, for example, everyone that works in tourism doesn't work in winter and they don't have a job in the winter months. So things like this. No one is looking down on anyone that is just trying to make money, because everyone here knows how hard it can be to survive. The next point on my list is the climate. And this is something that I both very much hate and very much love. But this is a video all about love, so I'm just gonna talk about that. The weather here is very different from the weather where I'm originally from. I come from Munich. We have a lot of snow in the winter. We have a lot of ice in the winter. It gets really cold and dry. And the summers are also kind of dry-ish. And nowadays with climate change, also very hot. So yeah, I prefer it here where things are a little bit more balanced out and we don't really have snow. Like, we have snow on the mountain here on Pico Island, but nowhere else on the Azores will you find even a single snowflake. Here also down on the coast, no snow. Yes, it gets cold. Yes, it is very humid. No, we don't have heating systems and you're gonna freeze your butt off here in the winter. But there is no snow, there is no ice, there is no frost. And I very much enjoy that. And in the summer, it doesn't get crazy, crazy hot. So I just really like the climate here, really. The last thing on my list is safety. And this might be something you are not instantly thinking about when you think about the Azores, but it is a big part of life here. You are safe here. Azores are some of the safest places on Earth. Maybe not when it comes to earthquake and volcanic eruptions. I mean, that is always a threat here. Those are volcanic islands. The volcanoes are active. That is that. But besides that, when it comes to threats from other humans, you are pretty much safe. We have some of the lowest criminal records, I would say, in all of Europe, maybe even all of the world. Like, people here leave their cars and houses unlocked, sometimes even with the key still in the door or in the car, because nothing ever happens. And coming again from a city, that's a very different experience. Like, for example, I will never leave my house or my car unlocked. That's just, I just can't do it because I was raised like this. But it's very common here. A lot of people do it because there's very little that is going on when it comes to criminal stuff or danger by other humans. Like, sometimes stuff happens behind closed doors, but that doesn't really affect you necessarily unless you are involved in said thing. But like, as somebody that just like, you know, oh, there's a bat, hello, that just lives their life here and doesn't get involved into the trouble, then usually nothing happens to you. And for example, as a woman, and especially as a woman who had to heal a lot of trauma in her journey here, to be able to know you can go outside alone at night and nothing will happen to you is like, wow. It is something I've never experienced before, and it is something that is very hard to get used to because, of course, you carry the anxiety with you wherever you go. But like, in theory, I can, and I very much did so already a lot of times, you can go outside at night and it's safe and nothing happens to you. And that's really something that is very special, and I think not something that people are very aware of, but it's something that makes me love this island a lot more. So that's it. The video turned out way longer than I anticipated it to be, but I still hope you enjoyed this ramble of why I love the Azores so much. If you are from the Azores or moved to the Azores or just are a fan of the Azores, please let me know down in the comments below what you love about the Azores or maybe what you dislike about the Azores. I'm gonna make another video about this because of course every good thing also has a dark shadowy side to it. And I'm very tired of people thinking I'm living in paradise where there are no problems ever at all. So I'm gonna talk about the bad sides of the Azores another day, but for today, I hope you can feel my love and excitement and joy. And I wish you all a wonderful day and see you soon.